Joining me now is Keith Pitt, who is the new Water and Resources Minister, or Cabinet Minister, I should say, one of the figures who was promoted by Michael McCormack into the ministry. Keith joins me now. Thank you for your time.
Great to be with you, Sharri. Great to be with your viewers.
Now, in your role as Resources Minister, are you going to be pushing on states like New South Wales and Victoria to lift bans on gas exploration so that we will eventually no longer rely on importing and importing gas at more expensive prices?
Well, the short answer is absolutely. I think we need to use the Commonwealth for the common people's good. It is the Australian people's assets. I think we need to utilise the gas which is under the ground for their purposes and for their benefit. And I'm certainly encouraging and will continue to encourage all of those recalcitrant states that have moratoriums in place. I just think it's ridiculous that we have an asset that can be utilised for their purpose, that can drive down the price of gas, help manufacturing and manufacturing jobs, and help keep the lights on and keep houses warm in winter. So I think there's great opportunities there for the gas sector.
Look, as Water Minister, I also understand that you are about to take on the Queensland Government over its plans to reduce by a third the capacity of one of its dams in Paradise End, 100 gigalitres. Why are you going to try and stop this? And, you know, just how expensive would water be for farmers? Would this have any impact on food prices? And, you know, in terms of what action you can actually take, seeing as this is a state asset, are you going to look at any legal options?
Well, it won't be the first or last time I take on the Queensland Labor government if they're doing the wrong thing. We know that there are some issues with Paradise Dam. We absolutely have to ensure the safety and integrity of the facility. But this is a 300 gigalitre dam which was only completed construction in 2005. The state are now saying that they need to knock the wall down, drop the capacity by as much as 100 gigalitres or more. That is wealth for this local region in central Queensland. That is future growth and jobs. I'll be doing everything I can to make sure we get the right outcome. I look forward to meeting with Minister Lynham as soon as possible. And certainly I'm talking to my department about what options are available. But as I said, we need to make safe, repair, restore, replace. Well, I'm looking at all options. We know that the state has rushed through legislation in the Queensland Parliament a couple of weeks ago so they can bypass their own rules around the environment. Now, obviously, there is overlay from the Commonwealth. We need to look at exactly what rules need to be met by the state in terms of that dam. But it is an incredibly important piece of infrastructure. 300 gigalitres is a lot of water. It is the future wealth and growth of this region, and I'm certainly focused on the people that need it.
Keith Pitt, you were one of the beneficiaries of last week's leadership spill. Both sides thought that they would have your support on that Monday night before the spill. Did you only side with Michael McCormack because he offered you a spot in Cabinet? Sharri,
that's just absolute nonsense. I mean, I've been in the Parliament. This is my third term. I've held 3 junior portfolios. No one in their right mind would think I wouldn't be loyal to the leader. And, you know, to be frank, that's our job now. We need to get onto it. As the Deputy Prime Minister has said, the numbers have been tested 3 times. He's been successful 3 times. We just need to move on and get our focus back on the Australian people. Well,
I understand that you sent a text message to some of Barnaby Joyce's key supporters who were doing the numbers saying that Michael McCormack had offered you a spot in the ministry before the spill.
No, that's just absolute nonsense. That is absolute nonsense. And I'm happy to show you my phone. I mean, what absolute rubbish. What else do you do? I mean, I was doing my best to win the deputy leadership. That means you need to talk to all members who are in the party room, regardless of who they may or may not be supporting. As I've said, the job of the deputy is to be loyal to the leader, to protect the leader, to support the leader, and I'm sure David Littleproud will do a good job of that.
So you were being loyal to both sides, depending on who was going to emerge as leader?
Well, that's just, as I've said, that is absolute rubbish. I never gave a commitment. I was trying to win the deputy leadership. That means you are trying to look for support from all individuals to unify the group. So, look, Sharri, this is all water under the bridge. Our focus needs to get back on the Australian people, and I'm sure my colleagues who are back in their electorates are hearing firsthand what the Australian people think.
Well, in terms of the leadership spill, was it over any policy issue, or was it just, in your view, because Barnaby Joyce wanted the top job again?
Oh, look, I think that's a question to put to the challenger. But as I've said, the numbers have been tested 3 times in 2 years. The outcome's been the same every single time. We need to get on with this now because the Australian people will not forgive this sort of internal squabbling on a long-term basis. They are in some very challenging circumstances, whether it's drought, floods currently, bushfires, coronavirus. Our focus has to be on them.
Yeah. Look, in terms of leadership skills and stability, you were actually crucial in the overthrow of Malcolm Turnbull behind the scenes. You spoke to your colleagues in the Liberal Party about your concerns over the National Energy Guarantee, which ultimately cost Malcolm his job. What do you make of the moderate Liberals now pushing for a net zero carbon emissions target by 2050?
Well, first and foremost, the leadership of the Liberal Party is a matter for the Liberal Party. I absolutely support Prime Minister Morrison. I've heard some comments today, and backbenchers are entitled to their views. But the government's position is we will deliver what we said we would at the election. That is a 26 to 28% reduction. We have a plan to do that, to meet, beat and exceed those targets. And there is no other policy or plan in place right now.
If the Liberal Party did pursue this idea, which has been raised by federal members of the party, would you consider resigning from the ministry?
I won't be resigning from the Cabinet, Sharri. My job is to put forward the views of the people I represent, to act in the national interest as a Cabinet Minister and meet all of the ministerial standards and requirements. That's what I intend to do. This is clearly a critical issue. We need to decide into the future if we want manufacturing and resource jobs in Australia, and in my view we do, then we have to ensure that we have reliable and affordable electricity supply and gas supply for them. And as the Resources Minister, that's what I'm focused on.
So just back on that point, even if the Morrison government adopted this policy that's being pushed by some of its senior Liberal MPs, you would be happy with that, you would go along with it, you'd support it?
Sharri, that's a complete hypothetical. You may as well ask me if I want to dress elephants in pink polka dots.
Well, it's not a hypothetical.
You've got
Trent Zimmerman being quoted about it just this weekend, and others who say that this is something that they are asking Scott Morrison to consider. So it's very much not a hypothetical.
But as I said, backbenchers are entitled to their view, as I was as a backbencher. It's not the government's position. We are doing exactly what we said we would at the election, and we'll deliver on that policy.
Look, just lastly, if we did have an emissions policy, do you think the bushfire season would have been any less severe?
I'm a practical guy. I think we need to ensure that we've learnt the lessons of all of the previous fires, and those recommendations are continuing to be implemented. Whether that is hazard reduction burns, changes in practices by state and local governments, and I know the Prime Minister is talking about an inquiry to establish those exact facts.
So emissions reduction wouldn't have made a difference?
Sharri, clearly the climate is changing. It was dry. Now we've got places in Australia which are very wet. That's the nature. It's been a very, very difficult summer. My focus are on the individuals who find themselves in incredibly difficult circumstances and providing all the support we can for them.
Thank you very much for your time, Keith Pitt. Appreciate it.